Are you in a relationship with a gaslighter? Or maybe you have a friend or a family member, or maybe you work with someone that actually makes you question your own reality or your sanity. If so, listen in. Hi, I'm Carol Bettino, psychotherapist and the author of the books Better Choices, Better Life, and Directions, Your Roadmap to Happiness. I received an anonymous letter, and it read, I grew up and was the victim of abusive parents and dated many abusive males and females throughout my life. Thank you for your podcast. Can you do a podcast on gaslighting? I thought, why not? First of all, for those of you who don't know where the term actually came from, it's been around for a long time. It started with a play in 1938, which later became a movie in 1944. And it was a story about a husband who manipulated his wife into thinking that she was crazy. He would actually tell her that the sounds that she heard in the attic or that the gas lights that were around the house were a figment of her imagination. And that's where the word gaslight came from. And the movie and the play was called Gaslit. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. Does it sound familiar that gaslighting is really not about just husbands and wives and relationships between partners? It actually can occur in any relationship. You may have a parent that does this to you. You may be the adult child who does it to a parent. It could also be a sibling. It could also be your boss or somebody that you work with. The reality is it can be in your personal life, your intimate life, professional life, and definitely in families. And there is no gender or age or religion or sexuality or ethnic background that is not going to be a victim of this. Anyone can. Why? Because it's abuse. That's what it comes down to. Gaslighting is the technique. Narcissists use it. Domestic violent abusers use it. But the technique that I'm talking about today is gaslighting. And gaslighting is about psychological abuse. It's head games. It's using techniques to manipulate somebody to gain control over that person, so that that person starts to doubt their own sanity, their own reality, and they start to question themselves. And when they do that, it starts to tear at their personality. If you stay long enough, it's going to create insecurity, definitely anxiety and depression, definitely can be part of it as well. But it'll affect your self-esteem, your confidence, and you will at one point begin to feel like maybe it is you. You know, when I was teaching psychology at the college, we always use the example of the boiled frog syndrome. Some of you may have heard it, but it's worth repeating for those who haven't. The boiled frog syndrome is if you were to put a frog in boiling hot waters, it would leap out immediately. Why? For the obvious reason is it doesn't want to be hurt. So it would protect itself by getting away. The problem with a technique like gaslighting, which is the manipulation and control of another person, is that you do it gradually. And when you do it gradually, just like the frog in the water, it starts out warm and comfortable and relaxing, and then it starts to get a little hotter. And the frog acclimates, it adjusts, it gets used to it. And little by little, it gets a little hotter. And of course, what happens? The frog continues to just adjust until it gets so hot, the frog boils to death. Obviously, we're not frogs, but the bottom line is you stay in a bad relationship, nothing good is going to come from it. Remember, because the goal of the gaslighter is to control the other person. And they do it through certain behaviors. So I'm going to go over some of the traits of the gaslighter, but also some of the examples and behaviors is what they use. One of the things to always pay attention to is if there is someone in your life that tends to break down your self-esteem and your confidence, and after a while being around them makes you depressed or anxious or hurt, like that pain, that emotional pain, and you find yourself being depressed. If you find that you start not being able to trust in yourself, what's going to happen is you start to depend more on the other person than you do yourself. And that's one of the worst things that happen, because it's the insidious crimes that happen when you are with somebody who uses these techniques. The first technique I want to go over is they confuse you with that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. or Ms. Hyde personality, meaning they put you down, they can be mean, they say hurtful things, but then they give you compliments. So every once in a while when you get these compliments, you start thinking it's not so bad. Now, most of those compliments are backhanded compliments, like, we had such a great day today, you were really nice. You can be really nice when you're not being mean to me, or when you're not around your friends. So they're planting the seed in you that, yeah, you're nice, but only because you didn't do something else that they think is bad. And that's where they start chipping at your sense of value and worth. They also lie consistently. If their lips are moving and they are a gaslighter, I'm telling you, more often than not, they are lying. Even when they're trying to say something nice, because they don't mean it. But they will become very agitated if you confront them about that lie. They will shift the blame and turn it around and actually accuse you of lying, which we call projection. Now, even with proof, the smoking gun, they're still going to say, it's not a gun, you're overreacting. You didn't even see me pick it up. But they will tell you that you're crazy and that you are overreacting, or that you are so dramatic, or if you would just stop being a crazy person, you would have a better relationship with them. So again, the goal here is to keep putting you down, so you start to think that you're the problem. The other is they take no responsibility for their behavior whatsoever. They'll even say things, because they lie, I never said that. I never did that. Why do you do this to me? Why do you bring that up all of the time? That's in the past. And I don't even think some of it is exactly the way it happened. I think you overreact to it. So they'll constantly blame you for everything and make you that bad person. They use your vulnerability against you. And this is the sad thing, because when you start to have an intimate relationship with a partner, you may share things with them that they'll use against you. If this is a family member, they already know some of the things that you've been through, and they'll use that against you as well. It's their ammunition for them to be able to use verbal or emotional abuse on you and attack you that way. In other words, they'll say, don't accuse me because of what your ex did. I didn't do it to you. Or I'm not the one who physically abused you when you were a kid. Or I'm not the one who was sexually abused when you were an adolescent. They also will use vulnerabilities if you have children. They may say things like, you better stop acting crazy. Otherwise, if I leave you, your ex is going to get the kids. Or you better stop acting crazy. Otherwise, they're going to be talking to their teachers, and the teachers are going to be sending that CPS people in, or they're going to be bringing in family services, and you're going to lose your kids. So they use that vulnerability against you. They are also very deceitful, and they are hurtfully sarcastic. There's fun sarcasm, which we call bantering, but they're hurtfully sarcastic, and they're very emotionally and verbally abusive. They play head games and say mean things to you and call you names. And they're very passive aggressive. They will never be straightforward and assertive or own anything. They'll always twist things around. And if you have any achievements, they will absolutely downplay them because they don't want you to be more important to them, nor do they want you to think that you have some value or importance or your achievements can get you anywhere. They'll minimize and actually make fun of your feelings. That's the sad part, because what happens is you're just trying to communicate. You're trying to share how you feel. You're trying to let them know the things that hurt you or bother you, and you bring them up. You try to share maybe what you need and want, because you're always giving and giving to the person, and they're giving you nothing in return. The problem is when they make fun of your feelings and your needs and wants, you stop bringing them up. And then when you're upset over something and you say it, chances are they won't apologize. And if they do, it comes with, well, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have done it if you didn't do that. And you know, you do that too. And again, they turn things around and blame the other person. They take no responsibility. Now, if you're listening to these traits and behaviors, you're saying, wow, this sounds common to narcissists and abusers. Well, it is. Why? Because these are techniques. Gaslighting is a technique. Anybody can use it. And a lot of times people will say, why? Why did they do that? Well, some people will say, well, they had a bad childhood. Well, they have a lot of stress in their life. Well, they're just angry and everybody's, after them or puts them down or whatever it is. They had a bad relationship. They make up excuses. But I'm going to tell you why they do this, why they use this technique, and why they abuse. And some of you are not going to like the answer. But people abuse because they can. And that's the boiled frog syndrome. If you stay, then they know they can. They don't hold themselves accountable. So if you don't hold them accountable, it is going to increase the bad behavior. And the problems with that is you stay. Because there's a part of you that is either afraid that you don't want to be alone, or that you don't feel loved and valued and worthy because you've stayed so long, you've lost those feelings. And you are afraid of the things they've led you to believe to be afraid of, that something bad can happen. Your kids could be taken away, you could lose your job, nobody will want you. So you have to ask yourself, what is it about you that would allow someone to treat you so badly? If it's a family member, you need to avoid them. And if you have to be around them, have shorter stays and stand up for yourself. Just say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to this, and walk away. People that are like that are going to try to follow you and say something sarcastic. Don't bite. Let them say the sarcasm because they are sarcastic, but still walk away. And if you have to, leave early, but don't be intimidated. If it's work, avoid them in any social settings. If you're in a relationship, you really have to question why. Why am I staying? Why do I want to stay and get hurt? What can I do to make myself feel better about myself? So those are the things you have to pay attention to, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself staying in a very bad relationship. And it's going to make it that much harder to get out. And the longer you stay, the harder it is for you to get out. Now, Eleanor Roosevelt, who happened to be the first lady of the 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, she said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Start to believe in yourself and realize if this relationship is bad, maybe I'm the one who needs to get help, not the partner or the person that's being abusive. I'm the one who has to get help so that I can feel worthy enough not to tolerate this and put up with it. I'd like to end with one of my affirmational quotes. I will live my life to the fullest by feeling loved, valued, and worthy. And my other favorite that I wrote, as a believer, this is important to me, but I remind myself of this. But whenever I doubt myself or my ability, I will look to God's guidance and direction. I want to thank you for joining me today. Please hit likes or be a subscriber, share, whatever it may be. But please share this information. More people need to know that they can get out of a bad situation. Thank you for joining me today.